Yes, thank you, Chief, Deputy Chief. All right, I'm going to start again. I'm going to call this special meeting of the Board of Public Safety to order. For the record, today is Monday, July 26, 2021. Attending and participating via Zoom, I have Commissioner Bingham and Commissioner Battle. Participating here at the City Hall Auditorium, I have Commissioner McLeod, Commissioner Cogswell, Commissioner Benedetto, Commissioner McElroy. Before we begin the meeting, could we please stand and pledge the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic of America and to the one
for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible.
It's that 30-second delay. All right, so as I started to say, this is really just an opportunity for us to meet and just talk about the resignation letter that we received and to talk about our strategy moving forward and what our plans are for filling the vacancy of this position. So just to regroup, you all saw Chief Towey's letter of resignation. He is away this week. He had signed up for a conference. It's a fire chiefs conference, so he'll be away a few days for that. But on the agenda, I have a request for a motion and vote to accept the resignation of Chief Towey in from the Torrington, City of Torrington Fire Department. And I wasn't sure if you're prepared to make that motion this evening or if you wanted to wait until August 4th to do so. No advantage or disadvantage either way.
I'll make a motion to accept Chief Towey's resignation.
I'll second.
Okay. So I have a motion to accept the resignation and a second, and we're open to discussion. Any questions, comments?
Just briefly for the record, just want to thank Chief Towey for the years that he did put in for Chief of Torrington Fire Service. I was on the City Council when he first joined and when he was first appointed to the position. And I had a friend call who was a former coworker at the Hartford Fire Department. And he said to me without hesitation, this is a person who gives it to you very straight, you got a good one. And that your city and your fire department is going to be very happy. And I could honestly say to this point that, the job he had done here, I think was always very professional. I think he's led the department and put it into a good place while he's leaving. And as I told him last week, sad to see him go, but happy for his future endeavors. And again, just thank you, Chief, for his service to the City of Torrington.
Thank you for the comments. Other questions, comments, or? All right. Then I'll just call the motion. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, so the real reason for the meeting this evening was to discuss strategy regarding the process for us to fill the vacancy. I mean, obviously, the first thing we'll need to do is, this usually takes time, as you all know. We didn't go through this that long ago. It was three years ago. There is obviously the resignation is effective August 15th. It's not likely that we're going to have that position filled prior to the 15th of August. So we will obviously be looking at an interim position. Jamie, the way the job descriptions and contract works, that's just a straight expectation that Deputy Chief fills this as an interim. All right, and we'll work out the details of what that looks like and bring it back to the board by the 4th of August. All right, and you're okay with that? Okay, all right. So the big thing is, what's our process for going forward? As you know, our last process was do you want to talk a little bit about the process? You had the file.
I have the file in my office, although I left most of it there. But suffice to say that when Chief Bernoli left in 2018, prior to that, he put together a committee of 3 fire chiefs who assisted in the search for replacement for himself. So I would envision, and I have spoken with Chief Talley about this as well, that I'm looking to him before he departs on the 15th to give us some guidance in terms of chiefs that would be willing to step into that capacity as a panel to help us in the process.
So, I mean, obviously, we post the position.
Yes.
We receive applications. This panel of chiefs can help vet the applications. With the police chief and with the fire chief, we utilized the subcommittee for the fire department at that time in the rounds of interviews. However, for the police chief, the board, we decided to go the route of the board appointing itself as the search committee, as a committee of the whole, so that all of the board members were in the interviews. Establishing the board as a committee of the whole, as a search committee, allows us to proceed as non-meeting, so we don't have to post the meetings. They aren't public, open to the public. So that's the first thing I wanted to see what your preference was.
I would just, if I may,
Please.
just say, I liked a little bit of both processes. The only problem I had with the fire department process was personally, I felt really left out of the whole process till the end. So far as asking the chief, I don't know about a panel of 3, but whatever. I really liked, I think it was the retired chief of Danbury Police.
It was, yes. And the police.
That kind of guided us through the police chief, something along the lines of between both processes that we used.
Okay.
I think a decision like this is much too important to have just a subcommittee do, personally.
I agree.
I think this is one of the more important things that we would do as a board, something like that. I mean, generally that way.
Yeah, and I think that because the fire chief search was done first, that we pivoted a little bit after that fire chief search and did the committee as a whole as a search committee and proceeded, and we did utilize those other outside resources to give us some guidance.
If it's a panel of more than 1 or 2 chiefs and they narrow it down from whatever we get to a workable number, that's fine to me. But at that point, I think it should be mostly the board with obviously a professional advisor, or however you want to put it,
I just think that the process before getting to the board, what we should do is see how many applications you get. If you only got 5 applications, they all should come to the board. And if you got 20, then they could kind of eliminate it. But if they only had a handful, then I think we should see all the candidates. I don't want to just look at 3 candidates.
Right. That shouldn't be a problem. I think that once we have those applications, we can share with the board how many. And from that point, make a determination. I do like the idea of having a panel of experts vet the applications, get it to a number. If that number you're looking for is, 6 or 8, you want to see them. Just remember those interviews that we had, they were long. It was usually an hour for each candidate. So it does take up a lot of time to do this. So I think
It
that
should.
would work. Yes,
It should.
absolutely. And it's not to say that you'll pick it in one interview either.
Mhm.
It may be a couple of interviews. But if that's what your thoughts are, I think it worked well with the police chief, to be honest with you. that
Yes,
search.
it went smooth. And depending on how many applicants we get.
Okay. All right, so we'll post the position. We'll let you know how many applicants we receive, and then take it one step at a time.
And how about criteria?
I think we recycle what we did the last time because, yeah.
You want to see this?
Yes, please.
Job vacancy.
I also think it should be the entire board.
Okay, good.
As the group that, does the interviewing. I agree with having the chiefs as an expert. I I do think we do need to, yeah, get it to a certain number though.
Okay, something manageable.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll read the posting that was done in March of 2018. Job vacancy, City of Torrington Fire Chief. Provides highly responsible supervisory, administrative, technical work leading the city's fire department. The minimum qualifications was a Bachelor of Science degree plus 10 years of fire suppression experience, including 5 years of related administrative and supervisory experience at the rank of battalion chief or higher. Must be certified by the state of Connecticut for firefighter 2 and fire officer 3. Must possess a Connecticut driver's license. We did have a residency requirement, preferable that the appointed candidate live within the city limits and or a reasonable distance from the city
We didn't have a
as
residency.
determined by the appointing authority.
We didn't have a residency requirement. We had it on the deputy chief. We didn't have it on the chief.
When this job was posted, this is the job that was posted
Oh, okay,
back in March.
okay.
But, it's one of those things where, and the same thing with the police chief, when you have a really good candidate, the judgment is made, but it does give you latitude and it says, or a reasonable distance from the city
Okay.
as determined by the appointing authority, which is the Board of Safety. I think with these emergency appointments, you're always looking for who can get here, for those emergencies. And then it just said application and a full job description are available on the website. Application, cover letter, resume must be received by, we gave them a deadline to be considered. But there was
So that resident
only
requirement,
9 days notice for this one when we posted it. We might want to go for a longer period of time on this one. So anything that you feel is, there's some latitude for discussion. The Bachelor of Science degree, 10 years fire suppression experience, 5 years administrative supervisory experience. Those are the three big ones.
I think that's
Mayor,
good.
Mayor, what defines administrative supervisory experience? Can you give me a little bit more insight on that?
Supervisory experience,
Yes, please.
I'm going to look to the deputy chief.
Well, you're at a battalion chief level, so that's more, day-to-day operations, shift, scheduling. When you're talking about above battalion chief level, whether it be chief of training, chief of fire prevention, deputy chief or assistant chief of some sort, we're talking the more day-to-day operations, budget-wise. Supervising those battalion chiefs, it's a little higher level. You're more and more day-to-day purchasing, finances, all that stuff is more administrative there. But the town chief does have administrative stuff with their own ship.
Sure. So if, I'm not sure, I should have the microphone closer to you. So Commissioner Benedict, or Bingham, I'm not sure if you heard. So the supervisory is supervising the rank and file. The administrative piece is, those day-to-day operations, including, managing the budget, managing overtime, managing all of that stuff.
Thank you.
And it does say they must hold at least the rank of a battalion chief
It
or
does.
higher.
It does. Yes.
for how long?
It
10
did not. 5 years of related administrative and supervisor experience. So yes,
Just that residency clause, it's very vague.
it is.
I mean, if you read that, it looks like required. And
Preferably that the appointed candidate live within the city limits and or reasonable distance.
so if you're applying, what is reasonable distance?
How fast do you want them to get here with lights and sirens?
West Hartford was.
Yeah.
What I was going to say,
Correct, yeah.
I think you might leave yourself too wide open there,
I think we should leave the language like that because it depends if there's a candidate that is maybe in Hartford, maybe a little bit of ways that we think is the best candidate for us, then we have wiggle room. If we make it too strict or too restricted, we may we may have a little bit of trouble with that.
I don't have a problem with the distance that the chief lives, and perhaps the deputy can chime in, or Commissioner McElroy even from his experience, but how many fires a year does the chief need to be here?
Well, that's the thing. So
No disrespect.
the fire chief is more of an administrator. He's the one that's going to deal with the grants, the budget,
Yeah,
any major policy, stuff like that. Second in command, usually the deputy chief is the one that's a little bit more local and will respond to actual emergencies, overseeing the ship. So the chief's job is going to be more of a, I don't want to say it this way in a way, but an office type of a thing. So if he doesn't get here immediately, the battalion chiefs are more than capable of running an incident. And the deputy chief or assistant chief of training would be on scene typically too. So it doesn't bother me at all. I think after reviewing the candidates, you can determine what's a reasonable distance for the chief.
I agree. Yeah.
So then we'll leave it preferable, but nothing stronger than that.
Yeah, Mayor, I have another comment on that. In relation to kind of how it goes within my corporate side as well, is that applicants can be received from any location so long as they have a reasonable means of getting to the destination. And hypothetically, let's just say a chief is going, or a deputy chief is going to apply from Rhode Island. That's an unreasonable distance for them to travel on a day-to-day basis. But if they're going to be willing to move in order to receive the job, then that should be at least something we can keep open from a conversation standpoint.
True.
I believe, if I understand correctly, the board has the final decision on what's reasonable distance. So
Absolutely.
if the candidate lives too far away in their opinion, just say Rhode Island's too far and he can't get here in a timely manner or whatever. So that's, to me, that's the most important thing.
Good.
I'm also going through that file from 2018, we received applications from state.
We did. We had one
Vegas.
that needed a flight to get here.
You do know.
So certainly I would discount that, and ultimately, if they, you know, were interested, and you were interested, they, you know.
And I would like to attract, I don't want to say as many as possible, but
Good pool.
you know, an excellent pool of candidates. And if you start limiting that, you might get lucky, but at the same time, you're taking a chance. That's my opinion. I know that there's a discussion in every town all the time about residency, and
Yes.
I want the best possible candidate. I want somebody from town if possible, but the best possible candidate.
I was hoping we can clone Chief Towie. So, all right, so then the description is fine. I think the language is just vague enough that it wouldn't exclude somebody from thinking that they might want to apply. All right, so confirming, board it wants to be committed or appointed a committee of the whole as a search committee. And the job description will be posted is fine as it is. And of course, obviously, external and internal candidates are encouraged to apply. Is that the message we want to? Okay, good. All right. Well, then, really, that's all I needed from you is just to give guidance, especially because HR has to take the lead on this, at least for the first several weeks on posting it and gathering the information and putting it into a spreadsheet so that all of you can assess the number and what you want us to get it down to. I think that any other action that we have to take in regard to making any official appointment as an interim or other requisite steps can be held off until our regular meeting on the 4th. Makes sense to everybody? You're okay with that, Commissioner Battle and Bingham?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you.
All right, well, I did ask Jonathan to add the executive session on the agenda in the event there was anything that the board wished to discuss relative to this in executive session. But based on what we've discussed here, I think I have my answers and marching orders. So I would just entertain a motion to table 3.
Motion on table 3.
Thank you, Commissioner Cogswell, seconded by Commissioner Benedetto. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we can move right into item 5 if there are no other items we can close the meeting. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Benedetto, seconded by Commissioner McLeod. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Okay, good. These are good 20-minute meetings.